All right, so good morning and good afternoon, good day to everyone, and thank you for joining us for LeadVR Cohort 2. I'm excited to welcome you in to our training session today. We are excited to have you all join us and participate in this leadership journey. My name is Robin Freeman. I am the Director of UA Currents, and I will be your facilitator for today's session, along with Dasia Johnson, who is the uh, Executive Director of the Oregon Commission for the Blind. We'll be sharing with you about leadership, the DISC assessment, and as well as talking about what's coming up for your homework, which will be the 360 degree assessment. So let's jump right in. Welcome to today's session. I'm going to go through an overview of today's agenda. You should have received an email from me earlier today, or it may have been yesterday. I'm not for sure, because I send so many emails, and I promise you that I won't always do that. So we just wanted to make sure you all get the correct information to get you started and get you grounded in this program. So for today, we'll be going through an overview of LeadVR, introducing the faculty who was able to join us today, um, uh, having some group discussions. You'll have a break or two in here today. We'll jump right into the overview of the leadership styles, the DISC assessment, and then we'll hear from our guest faculty, Ms. Johnson, who will also share about leadership and why it matters in your role in vocational rehab. And then we'll jump in and talk about what's coming up for your homework in the next sessions. For this session and for all sessions, we ask just a few little things from you. We know that you are busy and that you have a lot going on in your world. And so this is a big time commitment. And we know that we're taking you away from many projects and activities that are going on in your offices, in your homes, in your workplaces. But as much as possible, we ask that you limit your distractions as best you can by silencing your cell phone, closing out the window that has your email in it so that you're not constantly being notified by your email. And then commit to being attentive and being present for the leadership, the LeadVR sessions. While you're in the sessions, excuse me, we also ask that you mute your microphones, and if you can, use the chat to post your questions. We'll monitor and respond to those as best we can. Says, oh, are we able to hear okay? Just okay? Just so so? How about I turn my microphone up? Is that better? Yeah, I turned it down earlier. Apologies. So I'm here, a little bit better. So thank you for that. So when you are using your microphone, when you do want to speak, feel free to unmute yourself and speak, and be sure to turn your microphone up to 100%. Mine was at 54. When you are talking, because we are using interpreters, we ask that you not only unmute yourselves, but also turn your camera on. When you're not speaking, it's okay to turn your cameras off. We know that you may be eating or doing other things, so it's okay if you want to participate and do those other things. Be sure to identify yourself when you are speaking over the microphone. And we do commit to allowing you time for plenty of breaks because we know that in this virtual world of learning that we can all suffer from Zoom fatigue. We ask that you commit to participating and learning from one another. We believe as adult learners that you learn best from one another. You're bringing a wealth of experiences, knowledge, background to the table, and we want to hear from you. We want to learn from you. We want to know what's going on in your neck of the woods. So, in your breaks, in your cohorts, in your groups with your faculty, share your information, your challenges, your successes, so that we may learn and grow and get better in what we're all collectively doing. So, this is an opportunity to network and to build relationships and connections with people that you may not have worked with previously. And so, we ask you to take full advantage of this opportunity over the next 8 months. There will be homework, and some of you are excited about that, others not so much. So, we understand again that that is a time commitment. So, be prepared. If there is work ahead of time for the session, we ask you to do the work. Be committed to following up with your accountability partner, doing your reflection activities, because that's where you're going to find that most of your learning is going to occur. So be prepared by doing the homework. When you come into the sessions, each time we meet in LeadVR, we're going to start each session talking about the homework. So we ask you to do the homework, share it with your faculties, and do it in plenty of time so that that person has time to review it and provide timely and relevant feedback. Meeting with your accountability partner is also an opportunity to network and to gain ideas and to learn from one another. But it's also an opportunity to hold yourself accountable in this program in achieving the goals that you lay out for yourself as we go through this learning journey, and also to build one another up. So we also ask that you do the work so that you can hold yourself accountable. And of course, we commit to being on time, and we ask you to do the same, because again, we know you're busy and you have a lot on your plate. First up, we'll talk about your group teams. If you will check your email from earlier today, I did send you out an Excel spreadsheet, or you may have gotten an email from your faculty contact, and in that faculty have identified you as a part of their team. So your faculty contact will serve as your main point of contact for LeadVR. If you have questions or need clarification, reach out to your faculty so that they can give you guidance. This is the person that you'll submit your homework to, and they'll also provide feedback for you as well. Just as a for your information only, is the homework is not being graded. We are reviewing your homework, but there are no grades. I know that we're using the University of Arkansas's Blackboard learning management system, but we are not assigning grades, but we are providing feedback to you as you complete your homework assignments. The faculty will also assign you an accountability partner. So we'll work with that person to do further reflection and discussion about your homework sessions. And then you'll also work with your accountability with your faculty to set up your coaching dates and to get your group coaching together. Do we have no sound and no transcript? Are we okay on sound in the transcript? Yes. I just saw a message that there was no sound. Can y'all hear me okay? Could be
Yes,
loud.
I can.
Yeah, we
I
can hear you fine.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Yeah, raise your hand if there are any other technical issues, or if you're having trouble hearing me or anything, please let me know. Let's talk about accountability partners. I know this is information that you would have received in your leadership development plan, in the syllabus, but we'll talk a little bit about that here. The accountability partner is an opportunity for you to meet with someone in your group, in your faculty group, and you mutually agree to talk with one another about issues, about goals, concerns that you're facing in your workplace. and you agree to coach one another in that relationship and to provide feedback to one another. So think about what it means to coach another person, right? Coaching is a relationship built on trust, and it's an opportunity to provide support and feedback and to be completely honest with another person. So you should spend some time when you're developing your relationship to develop your relationship with your accountability partner because you want that person to be there when you address any issues that you're struggling with in your workplace, so that person can help you stay engaged and stay committed to the goals that you've identified in your personal leadership development plan. And so this person can also serve as sort of the voice of reason for you and give you an alternative perspective. As an accountability partner, you agree to bring an honest, unbiased perspective, and you agree to hang in there when there's pushback. When you talk about accountability and a coaching relationship, we're speaking about not only speaking from a place of trust and integrity, but also to seek understanding. And we know when we seek understanding, we're not telling people what to do, but we're rather asking questions. So, types of questions that you may ask are, what are the best ways for me to support you? Or what type of support do you need at this point? Or another question, can you think of some alternatives to this? Who might you ask for help? Or a question you might consider in your accountability session would, have you tried doing anything thus far to achieve your goal? Or tell me more about this. That sounds interesting. What are some steps that you're going to take to achieve that? What would happen if you did nothing? Again, the questions should help your accountability partner make decisions for themselves, that you're not there to provide counseling, but rather to provide questions that help them make decisions for themselves and develop a clear path of action for their next steps. So your accountability sessions will help you to prompt some self-reflection. You want to make sure you're sticking to some open-ended questions and you're focusing on helping your partner reach his or her goals and potential. Any questions? Do we have any questions that we need to address going forward? Anything in the chat? All right, not hearing or seeing anything. We'll go to our faculty introductions. Yay! Applause. Okay, so first up, we do have Dr. Susan Flowers Benton, who is not able to join us today. Please keep her in your thoughts and prayers as her husband is in the emergency room this morning and she sends her regrets. Who's She will be with us, I'm sure, in the coming months. But for the group that is assigned to her, I'll be working with you today going forward. But Dr. Susan Flowers Benton is assistant professor at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and we're excited to have her participate with us in LeadVR. We also have John Connolly, who is the Director of Research and Grants at CSAVR. I think John is here today. If you want to unmute and say hello. Not hearing him. Oh. No. Okay, and Veronica Jackson, who is a consultant with UA Currents and also the owner of Coaching with Veronica. We also have David Leon, who is the Deputy Director of Workforce Programs at Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. All right.
Hello. Very nice to see everyone today.
Good morning. Hello. Thank you. Our guest faculty includes Dasia Johnson, who you'll be hearing from later today. Dasia is the president of CSAVR and the executive director of Oregon Commission for the Blind. Um, Hi, Dacia. And Michael Quinn, who is a management and program analyst with Rehabilitative Services Administration, or RSA. Not sure if Michael is on today. Sharina Sewell, who is the Capital District Director with Virginia DARS. And then Philip Adams, who is the Executive Director of Forge Community Loan Fund, and he's a former project director with the Arkansas Promise Model Demonstration Project. Gina Bastian, who is the Vocational Rehab Manager for the State of Alaska Division of Voc Rehab. And then also Cheryl Fuller, who is the Director of the Vocational Rehabilitation Division with the Texas Workforce Commission. Any faculty want to say hello or welcome at this time? If you're on.
Hey, Robin. I'm unmuted too late. So hi, everybody. Veronica Jackson. There is a question in the chat about accountability partners that you might want to answer. The question is, how do you get assigned accountability partners?
Yeah, thank you for that. We will get you assigned in your faculty groups. So if you don't have that yet, when you go into your breakouts, we'll talk a little bit about that, the first breakout today, about your accountability assignments. So the faculty have you all assigned as a group, and so your faculty will assign you your accountability partner. If you haven't gotten that already, you should be getting that later today or later this week. Thank you for that. Let's see, if for those who are in Dr. Susan Flowers Benton group, I don't know if you've gotten your accountability partner assignments, but we'll cover that. I'll be your lead for that. And so, yes, we'll talk about that in our break today. Yes, we will use this same link for each Zoom session. And I did attempt to send you the calendar invite for that, so that it would go on your calendar and you would have that for every month that we meet in LeadVR. Any questions? Because I didn't have it here. Any questions about use of Blackboard? Anybody want to unmute, have anything they want to add, or questions that they are concerns about Blackboard at this time? If you have not been able to get logged in to Blackboard, please let me know. You can just directly message me, or you can put it in the chat, and we'll get that resolved for you. There were some issue. I think it was more on the UA side with some of the participants getting access. And once the IT found out what the issue was, I think that opened the door for everybody to get in. So again, if you haven't been able to log in, please do so. Use it as a way to introduce yourselves, to start group discussions, to talk about different topics, to share resources. I think it's going to be a great resource for your continued learning. You also have a syllabus and a personal leadership development plan. This will be used by you to help you develop the goals that you'll set for yourself for this training session, and also that you'll use where you'll see the homework assignments. You can use it to collect your reflections on your homework, your input from your colleagues, your managers, and others, and then develop a plan of action for achieving your goals. Real quick about group coaching. Oh, I should say about the personal leadership development plan and the syllabus. I did post that in Blackboard because I've sent so many emails, and I promise not to do that again. Um, I'm not sure if I emailed it to you as well, but if you need me to email you a copy of it, let me know and I will send that out to everyone. But you should have a copy of that already. Each participant is eligible to participate in group coaching with your faculty. This is an opportunity for your faculty to provide overall support, to empower you, and to challenge you to help you realize your personal and professional goals. Again, coaching is developed by developing a relationship of trust and connection between you and your faculty. So again, developing that relationship through your the feedback, the homework that you're submitting will be important going forward as you develop those, participate in those group coaching sessions. So your faculty will serve as your group coach and help you clarify your goals for yourself as well as for your organization. And then also ensure that you're staying on a path to achieving that goal. You'll have 3 group coaching sessions. Each of those coaching sessions are designed to be 90 minutes each. And we've given you these dates that the coaches have said they're available for you, March 9th, 29th, 30th, and the 31st. And so you as a group will need to decide what's going to work best for the 10 or 12 of you that are in your group. You'll set your own time for meeting. Your faculty will set that up and send you out a link by Zoom for you to get on. So March 29th, 30th, and the 31st, May 18th, 19th, and 20th, or July 19th, 20th, and the 21st. You'll choose one of those 3 dates, one of those from each of those groups of dates, so that you'll have 3 group coaching sessions altogether. There are 8 sessions total in LeadVR. It will meet every 4th Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. Central Time. We do ask you to come to all at least 7 of the 7 sessions that will be covering the broad topics. The 8th session is for group presentations. So of those 8, you'll have 1 excused absence. So you'll let me know or your faculty know ahead of time when you cannot attend so that we can make the recording available to you. There are 3 group coaching sessions, as you already know, with 1 excused absence. There are no makeup sessions for the group coaching sessions. We do expect you to complete the homework and that the faculty will be providing feedback to you of that homework. And then meet with your accountability partner, and then to participate in the group work and to do the group presentations in the 8th month in August. All right, it looks like we're at a time for group chats. Yay. Any questions before we go into that? Looks like we're ahead of schedule a little bit, so we have a few minutes. Any questions that we need to address? Anything in the chat that I may have missed? Anyone want to unmute and ask a question?
Good morning, Robin. This is Casilda Gallegos out of New Mexico. Just a quick question. Sorry, I have to undo the video. I do have a challenge with Blackboard. I got in a few weeks ago, tried to get in today, and for some reason I wasn't able to get in. And I think my phone number is incorrect, and I don't think that's something they can fix with the IT that I contacted. So I might need help with that.
Okay, I'll follow up. And would you be able to provide a different email address or?
So my state email was correct. I think in the spreadsheet I saw there was 2 area codes for me for New Mexico. So I think that was the challenge, because when you reset the password, they want to use your phone number to send you, well, to call you.
Okay. I will follow up and see what we can do to get that reset for you.
Thank you.
Would you go ahead and email me the correct or chat message me the correct phone number?
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Kiana asked if the homework is to be completed following each session. We'll send you a deadline date for you to complete the homework for each session. So yes, there'll be a deadline that we'll expect homework to be submitted so that your faculty will have time to provide timely review and feedback.
Hi, Dr. Freeman. This is Amy Ford. I do have a question. I'm on the, the page where we log in and things like that. I am having I had trouble finding the Zoom meeting today, but where really am I going to look for most of my information? Is it going to be on my activity stream? Is that where most of the information is going to be posted?
I think so. And when you say activity stream, are you able to click and see where it says discussion board?
Yeah, I've seen the discussion board. I'm just having a little trouble. This setup is a little foreign to me, so I'm having a little trouble navigating. So I think I just might need to practice, but I'm just having trouble navigating the whole system in general. So I might be showing my age a little bit. I'm actually a very technically savvy person, but this Blackboard, the whole thing has kind of thrown me for a loop a little bit.
No worries. And if it becomes too much of a challenge, I think for, with your faculty, what I have shared is that feel free to send it directly to your faculty by email. We don't want to cause an additional burden to you if it becomes too much of a hassle to navigate. I'm going to look for maybe some information sheets that Blackboard offers to help you navigate that system a little bit better, the instructions on how to navigate and go through. So I'll look through and see what some basic instructions that'll help with that and send that out to you.
Okay, thank you. And I probably just need to practice a little bit more too, so I'll be good. It's just a little foreign to me right now.
I think for all of us, and thank you for that though, because I know if you're having challenges, others are having challenges. Rachel says it's challenging to find stuff on there too. That the issue for me is when you say activity stream, I don't see that because I have the instructor view. So I'd have to go through and see if I can look at it from the student viewpoint to see what you're seeing. But I'll go through there. Shayna says something about not able to access Blackboard, but the personal leadership development file not found. Okay, so let me just email that out to everyone so to make sure that you have access to it.
Great, thank you so much.
Blackboard 101, yes. We'll get that sent to you so you'll have a cheat sheet on how to best use it. Thank you for those. Again, don't want to make it burdensome for you. Do want to have that as an opportunity for you to use as a group discussion, to connect with your colleagues. That was one of the big feedbacks that we received from cohort 1, that we want to be able to stay connected and have some discussions. But what we also found is some state agencies block Teams, and some have issues with Google Drive, and some have issues with so many different platforms that we were hoping Blackboard would be kind of universal for everybody. So we'll help you as best we can to help you. We'll do all that we can to help you navigate using it and getting the best out of it. You also completed your DISC assessment. So I know that there was a challenge there with some accessibility issues, and I apologize for that. Going forward, we'll have to look at some alternatives for doing the leadership style assessment. But for those of you who have completed it, thank you. I think most of you have done it. And so for this first breakout session, we're going to send you to your faculty groups. For those, when we open up the breakout rooms, for those of you who are in Dr. Benton's group, you'll stay here in the big room along with those of you who are in my group. You'll just stay here. We won't go into a breakout room. Does that make sense, everybody? I'm going to see if I can stop share. There we go. Move that up there. And open up breakout rooms. So Veronica's going to help me with this in case we have some issues here. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, welcome back to LeadVR Cohort 2. We're going to go ahead and get started in our discussion about the leadership styles assessment and DISC. And the quote that's on your screen is from leadership guru John Maxwell, who says, people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. Oh, one moment, please. Some technical things I've been asked to do. We're good. All right. All right, thank you. All right, so people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. I wonder if you agree or disagree with that comment. If you would like to put your response in the chat, I'd love to hear from you, your perspective. John Maxwell says that in order to create teamwork, there has to be some elements in place. 5 things have to be in place. Everyone is saying they agree, right? I agree 100% that you have to have credibility, that people need to know that your vision, they need to know about you before they buy into your vision. If they don't know you, they don't know you can be trusted, more than likely, exactly, Lee, you got to trust the leader. Not only that, but there has to be some passion in what you're presenting to the people. If you're not excited about the vision, how are they going to get excited about it? How are they going to embrace it? So knowing that they're passionate, you're passionate about what you're presenting in that vision is important to getting people to buy into you. What about relationship? Rita says you have to have faith in the leader before you want to accept their ideas. I agree. That's also about relationship, right? How well people know you, how well you know the people that you're serving alongside. The saying is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? What about timing? He says that that's also an important element to creating teamwork and a vision. Timing needs to be right. The right decision at the wrong time usually results in the wrong decision. So timing is really important. And then the felt need. We all need to know where we belong in terms of the vision. Where do I fit in? Where does my work? Where does my division? How does what I do impact the overall vision of my organization, my unit, my team? So those are 5 elements, and I see everyone is saying trust, that you agree with that statement. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. And so for our discussion and throughout LeadVR, we'll talk about these elements of leadership, about the credibility, about passion for your vision, about relationship through communication and timing when it comes to opportunities. and then where people fit in with the vision, the felt need. For today, though, we're going to talk about not only relationship, also awareness, relationship and passion, and then awareness, self awareness of who you are as a leader. And that's why we're coming to this part of the discussion where we talk about why leadership styles matter. Why are we even talking about this? Why is it important? Someone, alluded to earlier about the skepticism of leadership style assessment. It's really just a point in time, right? How I'm showing up today, but it also is a universal language for helping us to communicate with one another. And we need that, especially in this virtual environment where we're not face to face. We don't see body language. We're not communicating with one another in offices like we have in the past. Understanding and having that common language is important now more than ever. And so when we talk about leadership styles, what are we talking about? We're talking about understanding ourselves, our self awareness, having key or tools to success, to understand our leadership styles, to know our strengths, to know our weaknesses, to know our triggers, and to know the things that motivate us, that encourage us, and that keep us showing up to be our best selves in the workplace. Motivation, retention, recruitment, those are all big topics for vocational rehab right now. And so when we understand our leadership styles and what things motivate us, what things help us to do our best work, then we're able to contribute to better retention in our workplaces. So when you went through this assessment, many of you may have had an aha moment and said, this was a big surprise to me, or this really resonated with me. Some of you may have said, I'm not so sure about that. That's quite unlike what I expected. Or maybe a few years ago, you took a similar assessment and this was completely different. Again, remember, this is an assessment and a guide, and this is how you usually show up as a leader. So understanding your leadership style helps you to become a better communicator, be familiar with your approach to leadership so that you can help advance your own career and increase your own success. But not only that, but increase the success of those that you're working with. And so you want to use this to help you motivate others, inspire others, encourage your employees, your staff, your team to meet the goals of your unit, your team, and your organization. And then also to help you to understand challenges, how you approach conflict, which you're dealing with on a daily basis, the challenges that you're working with in your work environment. This is all part of what you're addressing on a day-to-day basis. So understanding your leadership style helps you to understand, am I more inclined to run towards conflict, or am I more inclined to run away or stop or to not deal with it? This will help you build a path for success, not only for your personal leadership development plan, but also for the success of your team. And then it helps you to see, well, how do I handle conflict? How do I handle challenges? How do I build more effective relationships? If I know my leadership style is DI and Dasia's leadership style is DI, what do I need to know when I approach her in a meeting? So it helps you improve your communication with your staff, with your team, which is, as we all know, a critical tool for success. It helps us identify what matters most for us in the workplace and where we need to refocus our styles. It's not a one size fits all when it comes to leadership. We really need to be able to tailor our approach to the person that we're working with, and understand that we all show up differently. So leadership style assessment gives us that tool for understanding. So DISC is an acronym that stands for 4 main behavioral styles that are outlined in this DISC model of personality. The D stands for dominance. The I is for influence. S is for steadiness. I said steadfastness, but it's steadiness. And C is for conscientiousness. I had to go get the dictionary to say that word for me because it was so hard for me to say conscientiousness. All of this is based upon some cornerstone principles that I think that are important to remember, that all DISC styles are equally important. There's no one style that's better than another style. Um, the I is lowercase because it is part of the original classic family. Uh, there is a previous version of DISC, and so the I is lowercase because it relates back to the classic version of DISC. All the DISC styles are equally valuable. All of them are equally important. One style, like the C, is not more important than the I. They're all the same. We all work in some way in the same level in one of the 4 quadrants. You all inhabit some part of the 4 leadership styles. It's just that you show up usually in one particular area more so than others. And how you show up today could be influenced by your life circumstances, by your level of maturity, your experiences, things that you've gone through over the past few years, may have caused you to show up differently today than 5 years ago. So your work style is influenced by all those external environmental factors as well. We should also remember that this is a step of self-awareness, and that understanding yourself better is the first step in becoming a more effective leader, not only for yourself, but also for your work team, how you differ, how you're alike, and what you can do to improve your workplace culture, your workplace relationships. Trying to get my phone out so I can stay aware of the time. I do want you to be assured that the DISC leadership style was developed based upon 90 years of research, and it has changed. Some of the elements or what you're seeing today will be different from what you may have seen in the 90s when DISC was presented. I think more in a bar graph model. Dr. William Marston, a professor at Columbia University in the 1920s, developed this. And so it's been with us for a little bit of time. Millions of people, thousands of organizations have gone through DISC and used it. There is some alignment, I think, with some other leadership style assessments. As you dig deeper into DISC, it'll tell you how it may align with some of the other leadership styles. It definitely is a common language. And so it tells you how you see yourself, usually how you show up in the workplace. So if you see yourself as being fast-paced and outspoken, and but also questioning and skeptical, you're going to show up predominantly as a D style, the dominance. If you see yourself as being fast-paced and outspoken and maybe accepting and warm, that is the I, the influence. Or if you're accepting and warm, but also cautious and reflective, you may show up as the S style. And then the final one would be the cautious and reflective, but also questioning and skeptical. You may show up as the C style, the conscientiousness. The question from Allison is if there's research on whether these are ingrained personality traits or influenced by training, experience, do the results stay steady over time, multiple times taken over the years? A great question. I think you'll find there is some additional research on the DISC website that we can share with you, and I can upload that in the Blackboard that talks about the research behind DISC. I can't answer that question specifically, but I do believe they have research that verifies that. also want to say that there are some additional podcasts available that goes deeper. Today we're talking broad view about the four leadership styles: the D, the I, the S, the C. But you could be a DI or an SI or a CS or a SC, and so all of those are a little different. There are some podcasts that are out there that you can access that will go into more detail about your strengths, your challenges, what motivates you, your communication styles. I think that will really resonate with you. I'll have to look those up and send you the links to them, but I'll get those to you. Michelle says, I do wonder if the way I see myself is the same as how my staff sees me. It's a great question. I would challenge you to share your results with your staff and ask them that question. We do additional training just on DISC. We do a DISC boot camp at UA Currents where we do team building using the DISC. So it's a good way to, again, share information, talk about communication, delegation, other issues that you may face in the workplace. For me, I show up most of the time as a DI style. I am the director of UA Currents, and when I say I am a DI, I think this was both what's the word? It was revelatory, but also a confirmation of what I already knew about myself. But it was great to be able to see it in writing. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can put words to that now. And so, man, I wish I did have this about 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I first started in supervision. But then 20 years ago, I probably was not a DI style. A lot of the circumstances that I'm in, working for the University of Arkansas in an independent unit, drives me, pushes me to be ambitious and goal oriented. It pushes me to take risks, whereas I may not have been that way 15 years ago because of the position I was in was a little different. So what Kiana and Michelle are asking about experiences would definitely help you to show up differently. I would say that I have some big goals. I have big goals, and sometimes you have to pull me back and say, you cannot do that. I put on my Facebook the other day a little thing that's a decision tree. It says, can you take on this new project? Do you have the time? The question you ask yourself, do you have the time? And you say no. And then the answer is, don't take on the new project. And then the other one was, yes, I have the time. And the answer down there was, no, you don't. Don't take on that new project. And so for me, that sums me up because I'm always thinking, yes, I can do that. I would much rather be moving and be doing something than not doing something. I just finished my dissertation, defended, graduated in December, completed my doctorate. And so now I'm just kind of like, what else can I be doing right now instead of just resting? Doing work is resting for me. And I see some hands you all identify, right? I like staying active. I like doing things. And being cooped up in the house from COVID, not so much fun. What I do like is goals, adventures. I like being independent, like taking on challenges, maybe take on too much sometimes. I'm not saying that I love change. Veronica would disagree with me, but I don't necessarily believe that I love change. I think through change and analyze it before I'm willing to take on change. I'll put it like that. I don't like rules and protocol so much. I kind of like to have a wide berth and do what I want to do. And so I find it difficult sometimes to deal with the protocol that comes with being within the University of Arkansas, navigating Blackboard or other financial management systems, going through layers of decisions are really challenging. And then being challenged in terms of authority or feeling like I lose control are all challenges for me. An example of loss of control, I like to swim. And I was going to the local event center to go swimming on a weekly basis. But I don't like 12 feet water. I do not want to be in 12 feet of water. And it kind of freaks me out a little bit. And the reason is I because I can't feel the bottom. I can't control that. And so I still push myself and I go and I do it. It's a challenge for me, but I also understand it has to do with my loss of control. So being challenged is difficult for me, but also being challenged is what works for me. It gives me motivation because I like to work alone and create activities for myself and challenges for myself. And momentum, independence, and creativity are all important to me. I think I spent way too much time talking about myself there. So I'm going to move on to an overview of the D style. D is for dominance. And like many of you have found out in the D style that this is the person who identifies as being the winner, the one who likes to take on challenges, likes authority, and achieving goals and success. Fears for the D in the broad view is being seen as vulnerable or being taken advantage of, but they do value competency, taking action, and getting results. They love to have personal freedom. So if you, and challenges. So if you have a D style on your team, they may push you back or they may question, they may speak up, they may be seen as assertive because that's just who they are. They could improve their effectiveness by being more patient and showing more empathy. And they are often seen as commanding, maybe domineering, and confident leaders. The Outstyle stands for influence. This is a person in the disc quadrant who likes to influence and persuade others. They tend to be that enthusiastic people person. They're open, they're trusting, they're energetic. They may be the water cooler person who's standing around, shooting the breeze, talking about things, trying to persuade others. They are motivated by social recognition, action, collaboration. They're warm, trusting, optimistic. However, they fear losing control, losing influence, or disapproval. They don't like to be ignored and they don't like to be rejected. They do value coaching and counseling, and they do value freedom of expression. They could be more effective by being more objective and following through on tasks. They tend to be the people that energize your team. They can also be seen as the erratic leader, and they need to have more consistency. The S style. The S style stands for steadiness. They are motivated by being a team builder. They are the consensus builder. They are the peacekeeper. So if you're an S style, you're known for being cooperative, sincere, loyal, and dependable. They love to help others and they love to show appreciation for others. They could be seen as a result as being passive and compromising on their leadership. They do fear letting other people down, and they also may fear offending others by asking for help or asking people to do things. In conflict, they tend to listen to other people's perspectives and they may keep their own uh, perspectives to themselves, but they are seen as natural collaborators. They like to win, they like to reach consensus, and they like to create a win-win situation. The C style, the conscientious style, is seen as those who value quality and accuracy, competency, and expertise. They are motivated by the opportunity to gain knowledge. And so they are the analyst in your organization. They are working conscientiously within your circumstances to ensure both quality and accuracy. They like to be careful. They are careful people, so they may overthink things. They analyze. They are using a system, so they're systematic, but they're also diplomatic, and they like to be accurate in their work, but they also are tactful. Whereas me, as a dominant personality, I'm going to be more forthright. They're going to be a little bit more diplomatic. So they will tend to may get mired down in analysis and restraint, but they do again value quality and accuracy, and so they have high standards, and sometimes that can work against the C style high standards, right? Because they want to get it right, and so they may overthink things. They can also overpower you with statistics or facts. C-style leaders tend to be conscientious, disciplined, and diligent, but they also can be seen as being risk averse and perfectionists who may not pay enough attention to the human element. Veronica says she's a C style. Overthink my thinking. Am I overthinking what I'm overthinking? So I kind of rushed through those a little bit. Any comments or any takeaways from what you heard about the broad overview of the 4 leadership styles? Anybody want to share? Veronica, do you want to talk more about your leadership style, your overthinking, your thinking?
Sure. Well, I was reading the comments and someone mentioned whether these stay steady over time. And for me, I think somewhat depending on the place I'm in my life. When I'm very career focused and working on work, then C is definitely me all the time. But I do tend to float a little bit more into I when I'm hyper focused on family and connecting with people. So they do shift. In terms of my C style, I want all the details. Give me all the information. Give me everything you have about that specific thing that you want me to do, because I want to make sure I get it right. And oftentimes it comes off like I'm a know-it-all, although I know a lot of things, but it comes off as if I'm a know-it-all, or if I'm lazy and don't want to do the work. So I'm asking the questions to avoid the work. When really I just want to make sure I do such a good job that I ask you for all of the information. And so when Robin and I work together, our 2 styles can sometimes butt heads, because she puts out a snippet of what she wants and she expects me to see the vision from that snippet. Meanwhile, even if I see the vision, I still want more information. And so we have learned our way of working together so that we both get what we need to do great work. But it took time. It takes effort. It takes effort. I mean, it took us wanting to understand what the other person needed. Does that help?
So true, very true. Thank you so much. I think that's a great example of 2 very different styles. And yes, you can have a combination of oh no, you're asking across the, I think this is what you're asking. Can the C and the I ever show up, or the D and the S? No, I don't think so. They're usually either what's next door to them. Either your CD, DC, CS, SC, IS, SI, ID, DI, that sort of thing, but not across from each other. But I think that Veronica makes a great point about the work that you have to put into understanding the people that you're working with, because it's not about just, here I am, I'm a DI, you need to deal with it. that I need to understand your leadership style as well. And I need to adjust my style to adapt to what your needs are to get the most effectiveness out of my team. That and you'll see that in your assessment that it'll give you tools and tips of how others styles may see you, how the I style may see the D style, how the S style may see the D style, or how the C style may see the D style. Other questions? Um, this provides a perspective on what areas we need to work on. Agreed. And we'll talk about that in our breakout today. What's challenging for us? What do we need to, where can we improve our communication? What are areas where we need to get better in terms of delegation? I talked in earlier in our big group that according to the research, S styles may be less inclined to delegate because they're team builders. They don't want to be seen as being a burden. So how can that help me to be a better leader, to give more delegation to people, and to create that trust in my organization? Carol says it's good to be flexible, to move into various quadrants as the situation demands. Yes. Rita says that she took a test by John Maxwell. I wonder what that is, what the ID stood for, Rita, if you have more information on that. If that was this disc or was that a different leadership assessment? Lee says, I feel I have to adapt my leadership style based on who I am leading. It's a good point. Show up as an ID with a shade to S and to adapt, but some styles don't come naturally. It is work, and it takes some awareness and communication to get there, especially when you don't necessarily know what your other team members are. We can't make assumptions because we may think someone is showing up a certain way, but it would be better for them to identify that for themselves, either by taking the assessment. Other questions or comments? Any faculty want to share anything before we do a break? Allison says, this is perfect timing to help me tactfully have performance evaluation discussions at this time of year. The assessment is so helpful to understand others and acknowledge that other people think differently than I do and the value that they contribute to a team. Great point. Deanna says, the older I get, I can see a combination of the DISC styles in my role as a manager, but overall, I am a CS, just as my results showed. Yeah, different circumstances require us showing up differently and for different people. But overall, we'll see a pattern. Stacy says, I show up as an S with a shade of SC, but outside work, I see myself as an I. All right. Anyone else? The key is being able to show up and be your authentic self in the workplace, right? Not only for your best, to be your best self and to be your most productive, most motivated self, but also that you can create those authentic relationships with your staff so that they can also achieve their best. We are at the time where we want to go ahead and have some discussions about our management style and talk about how we manage our decisions and how we address problems in our workplace. What do we do? How do we address challenges when they come up for us? Do we set them aside or do we address them head on? Or do we ask someone else to take them over? What do we enjoy that versus what we find draining? So we're going to talk through those things. There is a handout that's in the personal leadership style that I'll just ask you to answer here in the chat. And the questions are, what are your greatest contributions to your workplace? What are your greatest fears? How are you misunderstood? And how can other styles relate better to you? So let me see if I can put those questions in real quick. Your greatest contributions to your workplace. What are your greatest fears? How are you misunderstood? And how can other styles relate better to you? All right, I'm gonna open it up for a group decision at this time. We are scheduled to do a break or go into your groups, but we have 3 of us that are in one big group, and then John and Veronica, David and Veronica were in their groups. I don't want to forget, also part of the question is improving how you direct and delegate. What's difficult for you when you delegate, and what works for you when you delegate, right? So let me write that down. When it comes to delegation, what's difficult for you and what works? Okay, now back to the group decision. Do you all want to go into your groups? Let everyone work on their own and share. How about we take about 10 or 15 minutes and you work on your own and answer these questions that I put in the chat, and then we'll come back and share your findings. Does that sound good? So let's do a little self-reflection here. You're going to answer these questions. What are your greatest contributions to your workplace according to your leadership style? What are your greatest fears? How are you misunderstood? And how can other styles relate better to you? And then you're going to answer the questions when it comes to delegation. What's difficult for you and what works for you? Let's take about, let's see, we're ahead of schedule a little bit. So let's take about 10 minutes to answer that. And then we'll come back and we'll have some sharing. Okay? Does that sound good? All right, we'll put the recording on pause and then we'll come back at 10 minutes from 12:53. So we appreciate everyone sharing and contributing in the chat the answers to the questions. What are your greatest contributions in the workplace, and what are your greatest fears? How are you misunderstood, and how can other styles relate better to you? Some great discussions going on there. I'm enjoying reading those, but I'm going to ask you to unmute and we're going to go through each leadership style. And let's start with the D. Anyone want to share from a D perspective any of the questions that we have posted? Maybe you've already shared, or if you want to add clarity to anything on those questions. Greatest contributions, fears, how you're misunderstood, how other styles can better relate to you and your what works and what's a challenge for you when it comes to delegation.
Hi, my name is Cesar.
Hey, Cesar.
From here from Florida, West Palm.
Go ahead.
My style is DI. Do you hear me? Yes. I think my greatest contribution is that we achieving the vocational rehabilitation goals in our team. Also is that we are aware of the potential of each of members. So we are aware of their how to they develop the potential for each employee or each staff member or team. My fear is that I have very, very great employees that looks like now in Florida, the salaries for the state are very low, so they can leave us. So that's my fear on retention. Retention is my, I need to, work in my leadership for retention.
Okay.
My misunderstanding, I don't think I have it because I'm very direct and I clearly says what are my objectives and what I really need or I need make clarifications. And on the other related leaderships, I think I'm not sure about, but it's I and S. I'm very supporting too. So before, long time ago, I was in S, long time ago, 10 years ago. And regarding delegations, I don't have problem delegating, but sometimes I thinking that and taking a little more time to delegate. So I find myself, I should delegate sooner than sooner, maybe yesterday or last week. Okay. But I don't have any other, once the delegate is okay. That's my essays about this leadership.
Thank you, sir. So you're aware of the potential of your staff. You talked about motivation, needing to know how to motivate your staff so that you encourage retention. You're very direct. You know how you're relating to other leadership styles and are very supportive to others. But you said that you tend to wait too long before you begin to delegate. Anyone want to add to the D style, what your findings are to any of those questions?
I'll go. My name is Michelle Cobb. Can you hear me? Yeah. I thought that was really interesting what he said, because I was thinking the same thing as far as your greatest fears, losing counselors. I was like, how is that really a style? But that is our greatest fear. So we're on the same track with that. Contributions, just, creating forward momentum and having high energy and trying to inspire others. How can you relate better? I think I can relate better by being more calm and thoughtful, thinking things through before I say them, because sometimes it's like what they call it, diarrhea of the mouth. Sometimes things just come out. I'm definitely handle conflict head on, and it'd be better if I took a step back and you thought things through before, because I'm always like, let's just take care of it right now. Like, let's go. So those are mine.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I would say for me as a D, diarrhea of the mouth is probably a good summary. And I think also being direct, you don't spending time building relationships and small talk isn't always a priority, because you're like focused on, okay, we're here to talk about this, let's talk about this. But that warm up, that small talk, that relationship building is so important to relationships and trust and communication, that I have to remember, let's spend more time just talking about how are you and what's going on in your world. Anyone else want to share on the D? Whether you're DI or DC?
I can share. I'm not a D by any means. I'm an IS, strong IS. And it's so weird reading my report because it's exactly me. So like everything I think, everything I feel, there wasn't any consideration about maybe some of this doesn't fit me. Just a quick answer the questions. So I think the best thing I can offer my workplace is that, and this happens to everybody. I'm sorry, am I interrupting somebody?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So my concern or my workplace contributions is that I can handle the frequent and rapid changes that are happening, not just with COVID, but trying to make COVID fit with the VR process and practices are changing and going remote and then not going remote. So I'm able to kind of handle most of those, although my limit is almost reached on that. But I can handle change and I can handle crises and things like that. That's just how I roll, my personality. And I'm also able to communicate with challenging individuals like the people we serve and partners and vendors. But oddly, I really struggle talking to challenging staff. So that's part of my nature. And I am terrified of appearing incompetent and stupid, like, and then I think because I take change and crises calmly, I just start thinking of solutions and I start like, I don't want to overreact or anything because that's just not going to help anybody, in my opinion. But some of my staff members see me as not caring about my job or not understanding what's happening in the situation or the big picture. And that might be true, but they get very frustrated with me doing that. I think people could relate with me better, especially my staff, is to communicate with me openly and trust me to do my job. And I think one thing my staff does is they silo themselves. So some see the rehab counselors as a group that shouldn't allow anyone else in, and that admins have this job to do and they can't interact openly with the rehab counselors. It's kind of a problem for team dynamics, and that's super important to me. So I'm really working on that. And then I hate delegating because I'm worried that I'm going to give people too much to do and they're already overloaded, and I don't want to bother them, or make them think badly of me because I want them to like me. And then I don't want to also come off as like I can't do my job. So that's another thing. So that's me.
All right, Barb.
Sorry, Barb Kiefer from Colorado. I forgot to mention that part.
Thank you, Barb. That was great insight. Really good information for the Outstyle. You shared a lot. You talked about being adaptable to change, that you can handle it, that you like to communicate to challenging individuals. However, you avoid your own challenging staff. Terrified of as appearing as incompetent. And so sometimes your staff may see you as being incompetent or that you don't know your job. You would prefer for open communication, direct communication. Tell you what they think and not to silo themselves, in that you hate delegating, that you don't want people to think badly of you or to not like you. Fear of social rejection, disapproval, loss of influence. I think you kind of summarize all of those things very well. Thank you. Anyone else want to share on the Outstyle?
Hi, this is Wayne Jennings from Florida.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi. A lot of what she said, especially in the adapting to change and all that, I feel that as well. But my strongest suit, I think, is building relationships, and whether that's with my staff or with others in the community or the organization or anywhere else for that matter, I do that very well. I see is putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I do that quite well, seeing how all the different things affect other parts of the mission. And then, as far as the values, I think the coaching part is the number one thing that I bring to the table. And I feel that, meeting issues head on is the best way to do it. And, being upfront and honest with folks. And then as far as fears, really the only fear I have is, when I delegate a task to someone, that they'll do a lot of hard work for no outcome, or we as an agency will do a whole lot of hard work with no outcome, no follow-up. It's just put on the good idea shelf to go to waste. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Great insight on the I style. We're going to move over to the S style, which is motivated by cooperation, help, appreciation. Anyone want to share their big takeaways? I know some of you already shared in the chat, but anyone want to open or unmute and talk about their findings, your big takeaways?
Yeah, hi there. I'm Leanne from Division of Blind in Florida. I'm kind of an at CS, so I kind of a little bit the same as Wayne, but going a little bit more over and to C. I feel like my contributions is I'm pretty good at finding information. I can become, the other DBS people who are on here will laugh, but I'm a little terrier. Like if I'm trying to find something, I will keep going until I find it. But I'm also very attuned to other people's feelings, which could be a good thing, and it can also be a negative. My fear is getting it wrong. Basically just making a mistake or not understanding correctly, or just like not meeting expectations. I feel like I'm sometimes misunderstood, where some people will think that I might be a little too rigid or have high expectations. I have been called a perfectionist in the past, hour maybe. The styles how I feel like other styles could relate better to me is just understand that I do need clear expectations and communication. So if I'm either tell me what you want me to do, or if I'm telling you what I want you to do, tell me if you understand me or not. As far as delegation, I tend not to. One, because I know my counselors and staff already have a lot to do. Florida, we're all very short-staffed. So I do try to pick up as much as I can. But I also know when I want that done and how I want it done. So if I do it myself, I get it the way I want it and when I want it. And then if I was trying to tell somebody else how to do it, I would feel like I'm being too picky and micromanaging them. So it's easier if I just do it.
Is it Leah or Lee?
Okay, so I told the group, my name is Lee, but I was born in the South. So, we use both of our names. So it's Leanne.
Leanne, okay.
Yes.
Leanne, that's great insight. Yes. And I actually switched the screen to the C style because you said you're CS, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, was that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love what you shared about being attuned to feelings from the S style. But that you said that also getting it wrong was a big fear for you, right? That you're considered a perfectionist. Both maybe you consider yourself and your colleagues may also consider you that. And not meeting expectations of others is a big fear. Being misunderstood and having high expectations are also where you're misunderstood. But you also when you're given instruction, you need to have clear guidance, clear expectations, communication of what's expected, kind of what Veronica alluded to earlier. And then tell me if you understand me or not. If you're giving out instructions that you want people to give you feedback on whether or not they're tracking with you. And you say you tend not to delegate because if you're going to take that much energy and explain it to them, it's just a lot easier if you do it yourself. Um, so that's an area for leadership development, right? And
Yes.
especially when it comes to if you're managing a D style who may be anxious or an I style who may be willing, or any other style who may want that challenge and that opportunity. So, um, and I guess the other thing on which I had a question on about tell me if you understand me or not. I wondered if the C style, because you're so knowledgeable, if it comes across as intimidating to people, and if people aren't saying I don't get what you're saying, if is that because they feel intimidated? I know for my style that could be the case. So I wondered if that was some of the response, the feedback you may get. Uh, I don't know. I'm just putting stuff out there. So I'd love to hear from others about the C style. I know there are some great comments in the chat. My fear, Chris says, my fear would be that my need to identify the challenges, barriers associated with new ideas will be perceived as negativity or rejection of the idea being introduced. Anyone else want to share on the C style?
Robin, what you just said about people feeling like they're being talked down to when I ask if you understand does happen. Like even my husband will be like, "You're talking to me like I'm dumb," and I'm like, "No, I just want to make sure you understand what I said, so that if you didn't understand, I can reword it or say it differently." And it's so exhausting because I really want to make sure you get it, because I want to make sure I get it too, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always come off that way. So yeah, that's part of the problem. Well,
And
you
you
know that we work together.
and you overshare because you want people to know that you have the information, that you want to get it right. And so it may come across to other people that you're a perfectionist, or who knows. Anyone else want to share on the C style?
I'll go. I'm Trisha in Kentucky, and I can relate to a lot of what you all were just saying now, as well as what Lee or Leanne was saying. I was smack dab in the middle of C, and that was no surprise to me as I was talking in our smaller groups. Greatest contributions, I will get the job done. I will work and work and work. I'm very detail oriented. I like to ensure it's accurately done. And my biggest fear that kind of segues well into that is that I never truly turn off. I work all the time. I work on vacations. And actually, it's funny, we were trying to nail down a vacation time in March, or a time to meet in March. And I'm actually going on vacation. And my husband said, you are not working. You will not work this vacation. So that's one of my biggest fears, is that I just never turn off, because I'm always thinking, how can I help? I want to ensure the job's done. People, if they call in, I have to ensure there's coverage. With that too, I think the next question was, we talked about delegating. That was on there as well. That was the last. But how I'm perceived too is being very analytical. I think sometimes it comes across as being unemotional and detached, and it's not that. I have a process in my mind. I'm going to get it done, check that box, to move on to the next task, because that's also something. I'm a huge multitasker as well. And for delegation, I saw some of the comments, and I can completely relate. I wrote down, it can be difficult at times for a couple reasons. We're short-staffed, but then also I strive for that attention to detail, and I just don't know if others will have maybe the detail or level of perfectionism that I have when they're doing the task, and maybe the focus. So I try to get better at that though, but that's something I definitely have recognized in myself for years and years.
Man, it sounds like, thank you, Tricia. I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of in the same boat when it comes to delegation, right? That we're looking for that area where we're setting a comfortable area where we're giving people the parameters, and then we're giving them that sense of independence and trust that these are the parameters, you can do the job, and then letting go. I want to come back to the S style. There's great information on the C. So I don't want to overlook the S. The S style is motivated by cooperation, values, helping others, security. And Dana has put some information in about being a good listener, always lend an ear, help problem solve, and as a team player. Fears are not being supportive enough. Where being misunderstood is, some may think that she is passive, but actually she's very considerate of everyone's viewpoints. I stand my ground on things that need it. Other styles in their communication is, she says, I am very understanding of everyone, that everyone has their own style. And when it comes to delegation, she says, I don't want to overwhelm staff who already have a lot on their plate. I discuss tasks, I plan to delegate so that allows me to hear any concerns from staff first. Anyone want to unmute and talk a little bit more about the S style?
Well, I'm Veronica Dale from Kentucky. I just want to talk about the delegation component. Everybody has difficulty with it. Since I'm in a new position, I'm probably the person with the least amount of experience here. I have no problem delegating. I just I go, I don't know, but I have all these experts here, so I will delegate it to them. We have a new administrative assistant who is really tech savvy. I delegate to him. I delegate.
And is there a process that you use, Veronica, for what makes it easy for you?
You know what? I do. I actually look at my team and see whose strengths are where, and I put it together. Okay, this person can do this task. This person would be good here. And when I talk to them about it, I explain to them why I come to that decision. So everybody's all right with it, because I just had to delegate something. And I said, oh, you've been a counselor before, so we'll have your input. I need this other person because they were a service provider, pre-ets. So I'll get you all together because they're at the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to services. So I said, oh, this will make a great team. They agreed.
So Veronica, I'm gonna go a little bit further with you. So when it comes to delegation, it seems like the consensus among those of us who said they have problems with delegation is that the accountability issue is like, I'm just afraid that they're not gonna follow through, or they're not gonna have the same attention to detail. How do you deal with the accountability?
I give them a time frame and they will come back and present it to the group, what they've come up with, and we can address any issues at that time.
Okay. Thank you, Veronica. Anyone else want to share on the S style? What were your big takeaways? What's how you are misunderstood? Anybody want to talk about that? Oh, Stacy's putting there, I work all day and all night since teleworking and feel unappreciated, but this could be also my overthinking and self-worth from being burned out, working this way for the past 2 years. So putting some parameters maybe on how much you're willing to do or how much work you're taking on. Because Stacy is saying she works day and night. How do you address that as an S style? Anyone want to share from their perspective as an S? If you're in the same boat as Stacy, working extra hours weekend, I know y'all probably got an email or something from me over the weekend. Parameters from work and home life. Oh, Stacey, let me ask for clarification there. Are you saying that you're misunderstood, that you feel like you're being misunderstood for working all the time, or can you clarify a little bit on that?
Yes, the second part of that is probably my own self-worth or self-thinking that, or my overthinking, because I'm doing this. It's not like I'm being told I need to do this. It's just me trying to keep up with my stuff that I need to to do, especially an example, the telework form, where we're hourly sharing information, and I'm pretty progressive as far as I'm really super busy all the time. So keeping track of that has been kind of hard for me. Because it's the first time I've ever had to track my hourly responsibilities or duties each day. So that's probably my most frustrated thing that I have to turn in weekly that's not really turned in weekly. So did that clarify that?
So you're seeing that you're working more hours than you should, right?
Right.
And feeling unappreciated for that work. But then you're overthinking about your self-worth and your value. And I think that probably may play into the fear of loss of harmony and offending others and wanting to be accepted, be a part of a team too. I think David wanted to share on that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Thanks, Robin. And this is just what has worked for me related to that need to do more, always be on.
Yeah.
One of the things I've tried to do is, as a leader, not expect what works for me to work for my team. So there are areas of growth that will always be areas of growth, right? There's weaknesses where the more cognizant you are, the more likely you are to remember next time, hey, okay, that's enough. But one of the things I started doing, because I came into this agency and had a boss who worked what felt like 24/7, and I would get emails at 10 at night, 2 in the morning, Saturday, so I would get calls. So I got in a habit early of that was our work. And when I took over and had a team, one of the things I changed, because I can't always get my work done in 40 hours, is I would use schedule send in my emails. And if I worked for a couple hours in the evening, I never wanted my staff to feel like they had to respond to me outside of their normal hours. But what I would then do before I was done for that evening or that time on a weekend, I would look in my scheduled to be sent. And there were times where there'd be 20 some emails that were going out the next morning between 7:30 and 8:30. And it did sort of, seeing it like that, seeing the amount of work that was being done in an aggregate way, helped me kind of turn off sooner, because I think for the things we do, there's always more to do. And how do you get to a place where you are okay with that, right? So I don't know if that really helps, but for me, seeing that extra work in a way where I know it's going first thing in the morning has helped me slowly reduce the amount of time I spend outside of what are my normal hours. Just a thought.
Great. Thank you, David.
This is Carol, and I'm an S also. And, one of the things I would like to suggest is that, being an S, you really care about being supportive of your staff, and you're very aware of their needs. And so think about applying that to yourself. You know how to be kind, you know how to listen. You know how to kind of tap into when people have gotten outside their comfort zone. And so, kind of use that skill for yourself and take care of yourself. When you think about it, the agency probably really doesn't want you working off the clock. They just want a high level of productivity. And at some point you get a diminishing return, when you start to feel burned out, when you start to feel like you just can't get it all done, and you don't have the boundary of knowing that you're going to turn off the computer at a certain time, then that task can just stretch out, because you can always make the task better. You can always, polish it a little bit more. You can always do one more thing, but it's very helpful to have boundaries, and that for your own staff. And I think you probably do that for your staff. So think about expanding yourself that same kindness.
Great point. The ethic is of self-care. It's really important for us all to remember, set boundaries. Thank you, everyone who shared so much on the different styles and perspectives, what you've learned from this activity. We are going to take a short break and we are going to come back at 1:50 and we'll pick up from there about why this is so important to our work in VR and with our guest faculty, Dasia Johnson. So let's take a break. Thank you. All right, we're back from our break, and thank you all for sharing again this today with the DISC Leadership Styles Assessment. Have really have gotten so much from your aha moments, your being willing to be vulnerable and to share more about how you show up in the workplace. I think your willingness to be vulnerable and to share with your colleagues is really a key first step in building trust with your team and building deeper, more meaningful relationships. So keep it up as you go forward. We want you to continue these conversations in your cohorts, in your faculty groups, and with your accountability partners. Right now, I'm going to shift. I'm excited to share with you or to introduce you to our guest faculty today, who is Director Dasia Johnson, who is the president of CSAVR, the past president or former president of NCSAB, the National Council of State Agencies for the Blind, and also the current executive director of the Oregon Commission for the Blind. Dasia comes to us with a wealth of experience and expertise in this field in vocational rehab. In with her leadership at in Oregon, she has implemented performance management system that has helped the commission progress on its goals to implement a dynamic strategic planning cycle to improve staff performance and retention and expansion, to expand their outreach services, to also help meet the state's DE&I goals, and to expand opportunities and create opportunities for persons who are blind and visually impaired. Uh, and not only that, but also meet the requirements of WIOA, serving over 1,500 Oregonians who experience vision loss across all programs. I'm excited to share, have Dasia share with you today because I know her to be a passionate, visionary leader who has such warmth and displays inclusivity. I can't say that word very well. Inclusiveness to people in the field of VR. She's a powerful role model, a visionary, and a great leader. And excited to share the platform with her today as she shares with you her experience and her expertise, leadership in her roles, various roles in the National Vocational Rehabilitation Program. So I'm going to turn it over to Dasia.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you for the kind words too. I feel Robin's one of my favorite humans on the planet, so I really do feel lucky to have this opportunity to be with you today. I am honored to be here, to be honest, to spend time with you, and I want to commend each of you for your commitment. I was listening to Robin and reading your chats, and I know that it takes time to commit to your own development as a leader. And but at this time, I don't think there's anything more important than in the public VR program than to develop our current and future leaders in our space. I have to tell you, over the years, I have said many times to people in my personal life and professional life that I could land in the public VR space. I feel like I could land at any conference on any topic anywhere in the country, sit down at a conference room lunch table and find warm people, a pleasant conversation, and a connection just as I'm passing rolls and butter and salad dressing around the conference table. Over the past couple years, although it's not quite the same as the lunch table, I have to tell you that I feel the same connection in a virtual environment. It's not as warm. You have to work at it a little bit harder, but the public VR profession and the people, including the folks that all of you are deeply passionate, caring, committed, competent professionals. And, you know, just in the last couple hours, I already feel at home with being you. So thank you for just being genuine and authentic in this process and leaning into it. As we get started, I would love some feedback. And I'm just curious about a few things. So if you could humor me and just start by just popping in the chat. I'm curious to know how you are feeling about this process thus far. Just a couple descriptor words, one word. Just let me know how you're feeling about this process. All right, anyone want to share what's going on for them? Good, but hard without being in person. Yes, excited to work with others, part of a larger team. Positive outcome with some personal growth. Good so far. Looking forward to learning. Good feedback. Interested, looking forward to growing. Very good. Good, thank you for that. Getting ready for growing pains. Indeed, I'm still getting ready for growing pains. All right, since the pandemic started, I find myself multitasking during virtual meetings inside the outset to dive in and not be distracted. I need this review of leadership and the timing is good. Amy, that's good discipline. It is very hard not to multitask during these meetings. Other folks want to share? Looking at other styles and how they will work for my growth. That I agree with that. I think that's really, really helpful. I'm curious also, we're going to shift gears. I'll read a couple more and then I'm going to shift a little bit. Little overwhelmed knowing all the work that I need to do today, in addition to this training. Michelle, I understand that for sure. Excited to hear others' perspectives of those not in Florida. Okay. All right, how are folks situated? I'm just curious to know the type of environment, and I'm curious to know about you and then your staff. So I'm going to start with you personally. Are you working, if folks could just put in the chat, are you working, I'm going to give you three choices: remote, in office, or hybrid? Or are you doing a little bit of both? How are folks working? Looks like hybrid, in office, hybrid. Looks like a lot of remote. All right, so we have the full gamut, it looks like. In office. Non-residents in Kentucky have to work in the office, and I live in Indiana. Interesting. All right, what about your staff? Is it any different for your staff? Are they in office, remote? Lots of hybrid, Looks like hybrid and office are the two main. Montana, all staff in office, that's helpful. Office and hybrid, interesting. Well, that's helpful because I think how we approach leadership is a little bit different. Office administrative assistants, hybrid, counselors 80% remote except for January, all remote. Okay, helpful. So that's just an example of we had to be flexible over the last couple of years and continued to have to be flexible even in the last several weeks, that's for sure. As we get started here, I wanted to just frame this out a little bit. And as we were building our outcome-based management system that Robin mentioned several years ago, we had a consultant who basically said that you need to really differentiate between working in your business and working on the business and be disciplined about doing both. And so I just want to introduce that concept to you because I think it helps in terms of making sure that we're committing the time to do this type of work that we're doing. We spend most of our time in the business, whatever work we do and whatever roles we have. The goal is to support our staff in delivering the best services to our customers, whether that be internal customers or external customers and job seekers and individuals with disabilities or business. But in the business work is where our head is most of the time. And as I'm thinking about your comments about your leadership style, you can clearly tell that you have full-time work related to the work in the business that you're focusing on. One of the things that I think is hard, particularly in government, when you're in a private for-profit entity, there is a certain expectation that you're continuing to drive towards profitability, having effective and efficient business processes, because at the end of the day, you want to be more profitable, more successful, be able to be, the most competitive in your industry, all of those kind of external factors and motivations. For government, I think it's not as comfortable of a process, but really working on improving the business and its process and outcomes is helping support the business services that we deliver, which for us is vocational rehabilitation. And leadership development is part of working on improving the business. You have all kind of disclosed very, I think, courageously some of your challenges in your leadership roles. There was a lot of chat about delegating and, trying to figure out the coaching aspect of your job and the relationship building and feeling that you're providing the best support possible to your team, but also feeling supported. All of that stuff for you to be able to navigate those uncertainties and challenges in your work is going to serve your organization and ultimately you better. All right, go ahead, Robin, next slide. This is just a little bit more about who I am as a leader. If you're like, who is this Dasia Johnson? I'll tell you a little bit about me. I started out as a counselor in the mid-90s for the general agency in Oregon. We have two separate agencies. I began my public service as a counselor of vocational rehabilitation in Oregon here in 1995. I went on at the same time I was pursuing my graduate degree in rehabilitation counseling. So as I was starting my counselor role, I finished up my graduate degree and got my CRC. And quickly, after the first 3 or so years as a counselor, I was immediately gravitated towards additional kind of responsible roles in the area of, I loved training, I loved policy development. And so I just kind of, eked my way in and took volunteer opportunities until I worked into administrative positions. Really the last 21 years of my time has been focused on specialized service delivery for individuals who are blind here at the Commission for the Blind. I was in administration for the general agency for a few years, and then was recruited to come here to the Commission for the Blind, and I've been here ever since. I was primarily the director of rehabilitation services for most of my tenure, and then in 2013, I became the executive director. I am really, really proud of the work that we're doing here in Oregon. But it's also a humbling experience every single day. I mess up, I do things wrong. I could say things better, I could do things better. And I continue to have to figure out my own journey and figuring out the path to do things better and wake up the next day and try to be a better person and a better leader. I have to tell you, as I was preparing to be here, I was thinking about my own leadership development. And I went to something very similar to this. It was in a different format through the University of Oklahoma many years ago. And they had a grant from RSA at the time to provide leadership development to folks in our field. And similar to what you've had and will have through the LeadVR experience, we had a variety of opportunities to reflect on our own leadership development while hearing from other nation leaders and other experts in the field. And the part that I remember the most was at the conclusion of our final session, we had this like graduation ceremony, and in which each of us had to prepare like a 3 to 5 minute vision statement for how we wanted to be remembered as a leader at the end of our career. So we were challenged to kind of look back at the end. And although much of the details of that vision statement have like left my mind over the last 2 decades, the one thing that's crystal clear that I remember saying to my peers of that leadership cohort, that I wanted to be remembered as a difference maker, both in making a difference in my organization and being value added, but also to the lives of individuals with disabilities. My passion for the counseling work never has really left me, even though I was certainly more inclined and interested in the administrative aspects of vocational rehabilitation. The core work that we do in public vocational rehabilitation is so incredibly powerful and life-changing that that really is a constant motivator for me. So all these years later, I continue to be motivated by being a difference maker. It informs my vision for my organization and hopefully my role as a leader and as president of CSAVR. One of the things that I know to be true now as I'm kind of deep into my tenure is I feel as leaders, we pick up things along our journey that help define our leadership style and traits. And I've been so fortunate to have been mentored formally and informally, to be honest, by so many skilled and passionate leaders. All of my experiences informed who I am. Some of those not great experiences, to be honest. Sometimes I've learned stuff through experiences that have said, I intentionally am going to take a different path. So every opportunity that and challenge that we may face gives us a place to be able to build our leadership foundation in ways that inform us moving forward. I feel like your experiences that you will have through this will also shape your journey as a leader. And hopefully you'll be able to make connections. You already mentioned that, being able to connect with people from other states is going to be a value. But also, I think for those of you that are within your respective states and agencies, this can be a space for you to kind of take off the working in the business hats and really better understand your strengths and opportunities that can help you with working on the business and really helping how you could improve your teamwork and collaboration. So we are going to go ahead and get started. The next piece is just a little bit more about the work that I do here, and to me, the previous page and this page, this is kind of my external leadership stuff, right? This is what the people, stakeholders and folks from the outside, this is who they see, right? This is the Dasia Johnson that folks see. If they go to my website, if they Google me, this is what they see. But that's not just who I am, and we're all just not our bios, right? We're all not just who we are on our websites, or if you Google what people show up. We're also, next slide, we're also other things. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counseling profession. I mentioned that's me. I've spent my formative time in this field as a counseling, and I think like a counselor to this day. I'm a daughter and one of 9 children to my parents. If you don't think that affects my leadership style, which I'll share with you momentarily, it does. So I'm used to figuring out a way to navigate systems, and a large family is indeed a system in and of itself. I'm a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I have 2 teenage daughters. That also influences my persona and how I perceive leadership and who I am as a person. I'm a coworker, right? I'm also a colleague in a very stressful time for the world of work, and thinking about what that looks like and feels like, and being empathetic and understanding what folks are going through, and trying to balance that work-life balance, and thinking about how work has fit into our life, and all of the things that we've experienced collectively in the last couple of years. I'm a friend. I'm a confidant, trying to support other, especially working moms, at a very stressful time when you're trying to balance everything. In Oregon, we spent about 18 months in remote learning. And so trying to run an agency and keep my teenage daughters on the rails was a challenge. My daughters are wonderful little human beings, but nonetheless, it was still a challenge to try to support their learning, and also try to make sure that I'm present for an organization that really was needing steady leadership. I'm a community volunteer. I try to spend time in my community and connecting. I feel that gives me perspective, and oftentimes increases my ability to offer empathy and understanding the world around me. Oftentimes I find that sometimes I can feel, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with what I got going on. And then I connect with the social worker at my daughter's school and realize that, some families aren't able to give regular meals to their children. So I need to stop feeling sorry for myself. So it's helpful for me to check myself a little bit and just be grateful for what I have at times when I need other sources of inspiration. I'm a dog owner. I have 2 dogs. So when the going gets tough, no one else wants to be around me. My dogs always want to be with me. So thank goodness for pets. If you're a pet owner, certainly the pandemic has increased the importance of our furry friends in our life. And we did get a second dog early on in the pandemic. And he is a joy. So I have 2 dogs, and they're both very loving, unconditional lovers. All right, next slide. All right, my DISC results. I'll tell you, it was interesting because one of my relatively newer members of the leadership team here at the Oregon Commission for the Blind has his doctoral degree in assessments. And so after Robin gave me the DISC, access to the DISC, I completed it. And then I had said, hey, Jonathan, what do you think my DISC results were? And he, without hesitation, said, oh yeah, you're a strong DI, definitely, without a doubt in my mind. And that is what's so hysterical about that is that's exactly what I am. I am a strong DI. And that Robin kind of talked about her experience with that. And mine is very similar. My kind of dot is closer to the external line, which says that means if it's near the edge of the circle, you're strongly inclined and probably relate well to the characteristics associated with the DI style. So that is true. I do think that as some of you have described, your style has perhaps evolved and solidified. Obviously, my role as a director of an agency has probably reinforced some of those natural tendencies. I am very motivated to take action. I am definitely someone that displays drive. I do feel like I try to balance those with making sure that I provide encouragement to my team. Interestingly enough, one of the things that they say that is not typical but showed up in my assessment is the valuing of collaboration. I feel like that is indicative of the work that we do, that vocational rehabilitation definitely lends itself to having to collaborate. And I can't remember how many, if any, agencies that are blind are represented in the cohort, but blindness rehabilitation oftentimes has a more multidisciplinary approach. At least it does for our agency, because we have an internal training center. So I think also you're by the nature of doing the independent living components of the services in a more holistic way, you are kind of naturally inclined to need to collaborate with all aspects of the agency. So it says the things that I enjoy: initiating change, having authority, achieving immediate results, promoting innovation, creating a dynamic environment, increasing enthusiasm, keeping things moving, similar to Robin. It's like, let's keep going, getting people involved, and helping people work together. Things that may be stressful to me: following strict rules or protocols. So if you think about what we've been going through with COVID-19 and the pandemic over the last couple of years, there are a lot of strict rules and protocols. So that has been something that actually has been stressful, but in some ways good for me, because they were very clear provisions. And then in the gray area where you had to basically, it forced me, because I wanted to keep both staff and customers healthy and safe, it forced me to really think about things objectively. Having authority over rule, accepting limitations, that can be hard for me. Adjusting my goals, that is hard. It is hard, but something, again, over the last couple of years with a lot of the uncertainty, we had to flex, right? And be comfortable with a higher degree of uncertainty. Providing step-by-step training. So one of the things is where I think this would be value, the DISC result, and I'm going to look at with my team, is I am resisting the temptation, as Robin reminded us not to do, to assume that you know the leadership styles of you, the folks that report to you. But really understanding where they're coming from, I think, is going to be really helpful to me moving forward. Making steady progress towards long-term goals is also can be challenging, and also working in an isolated environment. One of the interesting things that I will disclose about me is in Oregon, there was a significant push to have folks working remotely, and most of our staff are working remotely still to this day. We're having services being provided by appointment only at the governor's direction. I've been, with the exception of the time that I spent helping my daughters with remote learning, I've been in the office. And it's not because I felt like I had to be here, but I feel like I need to be here. And I think it has something to do with not wanting to work in an isolated environment. So there are the handful of administrative staff whose work is not suitable for full-time remote that are also in the office. And then over time, members of the leadership team are doing kind of a hybrid approach where they're here part of the time and then working remotely part of the time. But myself and my assistant are pretty much in the office exclusively, as most of our administrative support positions as well. All right. Next slide. I think that one of the things that I just wanted to make sure and reinforce with you is that this is such a critical time for vocational rehabilitation. And as I reflect on what I'm going to do with my DISC profile, I wanted to impart really this sense of urgency. The public vocational rehabilitation program is facing a series of challenges that is going to require strong leadership. And leadership at all levels of an organization, right? So I can think I'm the most effective leader in the world, but I'm really nothing without my leadership team. I can't really accomplish any of my vision if I haven't gotten folks excited about it and give them the tools they need to be able to do their job. There is a sense really that predates WIOA that there is an overall decline in our performance that has raised concerns related to outcomes, but also just the things like the percentage of customers who stay in the system after they get into an individualized plan for employment. And the things that we need to really think about and understand as a system in order to be able to move forward. You mentioned in the earlier on about some of the things that keep you up at night, some of your worries, and there was some talk about retention of staff. I think we're all feeling the shifts in the labor market, and there's a couple things in my mind that have happened. The first thing is the world of work has changed, and that change had been happening, I would say, over the last 10 to 15 years, where when I first came to the Commission for the Blind in 2000, I was literally the new person, I think, for at least the first 5 years, where there just wasn't, people left because they moved out of state or they retired. There was really no movement here as an organization. Over time, that has changed, where typically we'll have staff stay 3 to 5 years, and then they'll be ready for the next adventure. And maybe that next adventure is to go to work for the federal government, or to start their own private practice as a counselor. Or if they're a teacher of the visually impaired, they may want to go to work for the school system, or they may want to go back to graduate school. We just lost someone to go to graduate school to get their doctoral degree. So folks are thinking about work in a different way. Instead of thinking, I'm going to, get this job, stay at it for 30 years, maybe get promoted, but stay at the same employer and then retire. Folks are thinking about it in terms of seasons, right? Where they may be wanting to take time off and travel Europe for a couple of years and then come back into the work system. It feels like the pandemic escalated a lot of those paths for people. And they decided, in part because of the competitive nature of the workplace, there's lots of jobs open in Oregon. I don't know how it is in your state, but we actually, for the first time ever in my memory, we actually can't hire administrative support positions. And we have some internal state of Oregon constraints related to the compensation, because we have to have this pay equity analysis that I won't bore you with. But we've had several folks turn us down for clerical administrative positions recently. And if you've tried to run an agency without clerical staff doing a lot of the administrative aspects, it's not easy. It's like, if you ever wonder, you really need all types of positions at full capacity in order to run an agency well. So that's been a challenge for us. And we're going to have to really think and rethink, I think, as a whole state government in Oregon, how we attract, recruit, and retain employees in general. It gets more complicated in the public vocational rehabilitation system because some of our jobs actually require specialized education and expertise. All of our jobs are required. Some of them, it's a little bit harder to recruit for because there are fewer of them and more job openings. So all of the things that you guys were talking about with related to pay and flexibility and all of those things, we're going to have to figure that out. And hopefully we can do some of that work together as a system. I know CSAVR is starting to work on that. But that's a lot of rambling to say the ongoing uncertainty that we're all facing is going to require flexibility and comfort with leading into the unknown. And where I feel this is really important to think about is if you look at your DI assessment, and some of you may be more comfortable with the flexibility and leading into the unknown than others, right? And knowing that about yourself and surrounding yourself with the right supports, the right kind of staff and leadership support that you have is going to help as we kind of move into this next stages. All right, next slide. All right, one of the things that I've been talking with our team around is, and the importance of this leadership development work is thinking globally. And this LeadVR opportunity is really a chance for you to think about your perspective, to connect with the work and the work of your team within the larger context of the VR system within your state and the nation, and thinking about kind of your immediate work and then how it connects up to the larger system. I think if I understood from kind of reading between the lines in your chat, that many of you are in positions that I would categorize as middle management positions. I'm just going to stop there, and if you could pop it in the chat and see if that resonates with people, that term, middle management. Yes, I hear. Yes, yes. Yep, yep, yes. Oh yeah, most definitely. Yes. All right, thank you for confirming. Lots of yeses. For sure, yes, yes. Well, I will tell you, I've spent most of my time in public VR, let's see, March will be 9 years, but I've still spent most of my time in that middle management role. And you'll hear terms and lots of books around managing up and managing down. And really it's because part of your challenges in acting locally and specific actionable things that you can do in your space is making connections with that bigger picture, maybe the direction that your agency is heading in, and helping provide meaning and context for your staff. And that is a super challenging place, and it can be a super challenging place to live and work, is kind of in that middle space. Sometimes I'll get a little bit of glimpse of and a kind of a refresher, like, oh, okay, now I know what that means. And because my staff are now in that role, my direct reports are in that middle management where they're having to interpret perhaps stuff that I'm saying or doing and kind of providing that context and meaning to staff. And I really feel that leadership opportunities exist everywhere within an organization. And it doesn't have to be a title where you have a specific fancy title or, but looking for those opportunities to kind of lead and manage up and manage down. And sometimes I have had, especially in the last several months during the heat of the pandemic, had opportunities where my staff were doing that leading up work and really made a difference for me as a leader. So I just want to say to you that oftentimes when you're in that sandwich spot, you spend a lot of time doing, I would say, the interpretive dance between trying to figure out, what the higher ups are doing, and figuring out next steps, and then maybe taking that, figuring out the now what, and then taking it to your staff. And sometimes you have to run things back up. And when I was at the general agency in a policy analyst role, I remember vividly we were making, and maybe it's more efficient now, but we were making changes to, I think it was our self-employment policy at the time. And I swear I spent the time running up the flagpole, down the flagpole, like I felt like a year. And I feel like I'm kind of efficient, but it's the complexity of that middle role where you're trying to you're in between two worlds in some way. And you're trying to basically create the atmosphere for the right environment for both worlds to be able to coexist and thrive. Today, it is due at noon. Tomorrow is gotten forever. Yes. All right, next slide. All right. Building our leadership foundation. I thought it would be a little bit interesting to just talk about this in a different, very concrete way, literally concrete. Each of us comes to the work with our own unique perspectives. I kind of talked about kind of my external leadership style and what I have that is presented very publicly. And then the stuff that I have as a human being that I bring to work every day. All right, next slide. All right, and this slide is just about what is part of your leadership foundation. And I have pictured basically a building, an image of a building foundation kind of made up of concrete and reinforcements. And to me, the way I think about this is that our natural leadership traits that may have been discovered sometimes for the first time in the DISC assessments, that is part of this foundation. Our natural things that we just bring to the work. The other things that I feel that are in this foundation are kind of our principles and our core beliefs and our values. And a lot of times, this is where, when I talked about that lunch table, where I just can land anywhere and just have a conversation with someone from a different state, a different role completely, and just connect with them. I oftentimes feel that it's our core beliefs and values around what I feel like is the underlying belief that public vocational rehabilitation professionals have with human capacity and the human capacity for transformation. That feels like one of those things that's like the secret sauce that every rehabilitation professional believes in their core, because that's kind of what we do. We believe that with the right training, tools, and support, someone who experiences a disability can do just about any job that they can, within the limitations that their humanity exists, but their disability doesn't have to get in their way. Those are things that we take to our leadership role. Past experiences. I'm just curious to know if any of you in your leadership experience, past and present, if you've had past experiences that have motivated you to do better or differently. Either things that you did bad that you wanted to change, or things that you observed or experienced from another leadership person in your life. Were you motivated? Shoot it out in the chat. Absolutely. Yes, learning from someone else's mistake. Yes. Past experiences have definitely shaped my leadership. Yes, Gwen, yep. Without a doubt. Yes, learning and growing from past experiences. I learned from doing and making mistakes. Yes. Yes, lots of resonation about experience, leadership styles, and other different agencies. Yep. Very good. Thank you. The other thing that can be part of your leadership foundation is your mentors and your support system. That's one of the cool things that you will have through the LeadVR experience, is a connection to your faculty member, to your team of folks, to be able to just connect with someone in a common space with the common language of this experience, and just learn from each other. I think that piece can really make a difference. When I became executive director, I was rehab director for 13 years before I got the executive director role. I literally moved down 2 offices to the corner office, right? But I went from being approachable and constantly interrupted with folks saying, "Hey, how you doing?" to, wanting to ask me questions and engage with me, to literally folks not being comfortable coming into my office. And I literally moved 2 doors down. And that was a hard shift for me to not take personal in a lot of ways. And still in some ways it's hard for me because I'm the same person. And in a lot of ways, leadership can be lonely. And part of it is trying to figure out your opportunities to get your needs for mentoring and connecting and supporting each other. Because I realized through my own experiences that my staff, they want me to just know what I'm doing, to exert confidence and to support them, and they have their own stuff, right? And so if I got stuff, I got to figure out a mechanism in order to be able to meet my emotional and my support needs, because I need to be able to be there for them. And that is, sometimes you got to figure that out for yourself, like when you can connect with other folks within your agency, but also sometimes making a connection with someone that's not at all in the VR space, or someone that you can feel comfortable with. Sometimes that's through employee assistance, right? Where you can just go in a confidential way of connecting and saying, "Hey, I have this issue." And sometimes me just saying it out loud and hearing myself say it, it can change my perception about what I was actually trying to process or do about a certain situation. So it's sometimes it's really, really hard. But all of that is part of your foundation. And obviously we know a strong foundation is what keeps the keeps things up, right? Keeps things operational. And if you have something that disrupts you, a foundation is going to keep us from crumbling down. So it's really, really important that we focus on that. All right, next slide. All right, I'm curious to know if folks can feel comfortable identifying just one or two, if you have them, that are core to you, part of your foundation of who you are as a leader, that you could just rattle off in the chat. Like something that's like, yep, this is me as a leader and it's important to me. It's part of my foundation. Anyone have anything they want to share? Elements that are part of your foundation, good or bad. Advocate, cooperation, try to lead by example, making sure everyone has a voice. Being open-minded, honesty, transparency, social justice, listening to all points of view, transparency, emphasis on communication, open, treating dignity, I can't read it, all good stuff, reliable, fixer, being a good listener, supportive, having good and clear communication, trust, support, approachable, having an open door policy, lifelong learner. Very, very good. I think it's important always being the same person, consistency. I saw that earlier in the chat too. To me, that's a high value, right? For your staff, knowing that you're going to be the same. I'll tell you quickly, we were going through this very stressful political situation many years ago when I was director of rehabilitation, and I was super stressed out. And one of my staff had come to my door and knocked on the door, and he was one of those folks that would come by and just need to check in for reassurance. I knew that was a high need for him. He knocked on my door, and I was not in my leadership best. And he cracked the door, and he just saw the look on my face, which was a look of distress probably, and left. He got everything he needed within like a 5-second non-visual exchange with me. And I knew immediately that that was a leadership failure, because my goal was always to be the same person no matter what. And what he needed from me was reassurance that we were going to be okay. And I didn't give it to him. And that was very foundational to me. I take that experience to this day, because we were okay. We were going to be okay. And I needed to just take that extra second to compose myself before I said, come in. And I just didn't do it. So that's the kind of thing that I think about as I kind of building on. Which gets to our next question. Any elements that are core to you that you hope to develop or strengthen for your foundation? Anything you want to work on? Diplomacy. Setting boundaries. EDI. Why do I not know what that is, Rachel? Being more in direct communication, saying no when appropriate. Patience. Equity, diversity, include. Thank you, Rachel. Continued collaboration, clear expectations, flexible and being in compliance with my team, being more assertive. Nice. Making people accountable. Being more confident. Well, I'll tell you, Jennifer, I will say that someone, you know that term, fake it till you make it. I kind of am a complete believer in the fake it till you make it piece. I've been in, when I first started out in leadership roles, sometimes people would say acronyms to me and I'm like, I'm not sure I know exactly what that acronym was. And so I would just take really good notes when I was in meetings, especially if I was in governmental meetings that were about the legislature and stuff like that. And I literally Googled or did the equivalent. I don't know, it was before Google, but I would look things up after the meetings to make sure. I'm like, okay, LFO is Legislative Fiscal Office, but I didn't ask, what is like LFO? Because they just assumed I knew that kind of stuff. So I just would keep notes. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but that tells you a little bit about me, where I'm not afraid to fake it till I make it. Being more available for staff to help with their professional development. That's nice. Nice. Listen and not always problem solve. Allow others to explore. Nice. All right, you guys are on your way. Next slide. I think that as we're kind of processing the next steps, I feel like this is your time to really lean in and think about how LeadVR is going to help you create that strong foundation and reinforcements to get you through those challenging times. And set the stage for the next several months of your professional development. I think that one of the things that I've learned during pandemic is that it is hard, to continue to think about yourself as this, Robin mentioned, like always growing, always changing. I'll tell you that during the pandemic, one of the things that I had to learn, my primary meetings are with my senior leadership team. And so how I engage with them is oftentimes, first of all, we spend a lot of time together. So we have strong rapport. I hope to have really strong team dynamics there. And so I'm pretty sure at times I can be short to the point. Right? I'm like, okay, we got to get this done. Let's get it. Let's move. Right? That approach does not always translate well if I'm having, for example, an all agency meeting. And one of the things that we have been taking advantage of, I mentioned, we're primarily in this hybrid model where a lot of our staff are working remotely. So we, since the beginning of the pandemic, have taken advantage of Zoom. And every other Tuesday afternoon, I have a meeting. It's about a half hour, 45 minutes on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, where I hold a all agency Zoom meeting. It's optional. And but at least 2/3 of the agency typically dials in, right? And it's a combination of me sharing. Sometimes it's COVID news, sometimes it's just agency news, sometimes it's a combination. And then I just field round robin questions, anything on people's minds that they're thinking about, worried about, or what have you. And one of my most recent leadership lessons was we were close before Omicron to reopening, where we were going to be open back up to the public. And we've been closed except for appointments since March of 2020. So for some of our staff, because of that, remember we talked about the retention issue, we're hiring all of these new employees. Some of the staff have only worked in our offices when they've been closed to the public. So because I'm not as close to the work anymore, one of the things that came up in several questions was an overwhelming concern and fear about reopening to our customers. And I was not very patient about that, to be honest, because again, my worldview and my communication style directly with my team, and it came across without my awareness or intention as harsh and insensitive to the folks that were genuinely concerned that they would have to be interacting with our customers in person again. And so my leadership team had to give me feedback about that. So again, that leading, I had to have that trust and rapport with them to give me that kind of feedback. And I had to figure out a way to incorporate that and do something about it. So I think that I'm just sharing that with you to say, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. I just made one. When was that? In December, a big one where staff were feeling like, even though I've been working really hard to make them still feel safe and connected through these every other week meetings. But if I'm coming across as cold and insensitive to their needs, then it doesn't really matter, you know, whether or not I have this open door policy where they can ask me any questions if they're not feeling safe. So it's really my opportunity to continue to develop my leadership style and listen more intent for what they're actually needing from me, and do a better job of supporting them and meeting them where they're at that time. All right, next slide. All right, just a few reminders. Don't be afraid to lean into the opportunities for growth. It's not easy, right? But knowing where and for those in NC together, it would be great if you could just reinforce that with each other, that, you know, this is your safe space to just kind of lean in and learn and grow together, and try to have fun. I am a big believer that you gotta have fun at work, because the work sometimes is really, really hard. I don't think it doesn't have to be, it can also be fun and rewarding to connect. I think that the mission of our respective organizations is so important, and the work is an incredibly rewarding and life-changing to the job seekers with disabilities and the businesses. They really make a difference, I think, in our overall workforce. And so that we might as well have a little bit of fun along the way. All right, next slide. All right, I just thought we'd just spend a couple minutes. If there's anything you want to share in any of these three spaces, just spend a minute or two. Anything you got out of the session, anything you're looking forward to, or anything you still have questions about that you want incorporated into future LeadVR sessions. I like the teach to fish instead of giving answers. It's really hard when you're in a hurry, but really important. Listen and not always problem solve, allowing others to explore. Ed James, I could have used your advice before my meeting when I wasn't listening very well. Good reminder. Great, I'm glad it's helpful. We're not striving for perfection, even though some of us, it's a high value. It's kind of an unrealistic target. I think being vulnerable and authentic is important. It's good to have collaboration with others. Looking forward to that. Yes, you're welcome, Tricia. Other thoughts, things that you're concerned about, things that you're taking away from today? Yes, it's a good reminder we're human. Being able to acknowledge our mistakes with staff is vital. Nice to know I'm not alone in some of my fears and overthinking. Yep. Debbie, you and I could talk all day about overthinking. It's my favorite thing to do. All right, I think, Robin, do I turn it over to you? We just have a few minutes left.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much.
We really appreciate you, Dasia Johnson, for sharing. I really enjoy what you said about working in the business as opposed to working on the business. You know, part of what we'll be doing in our journey in LeadVR is helping us to refocus on the work of the business. So I didn't talk about it in the introduction, but part of your activity, your group work will be, project work will be a SWOT analysis that helps you identify opportunities and trends going forward for your organization. But you'll also do that, you'll find in your work with your faculty and the group coaching that that SWOT analysis on a personal level will also come into play. So what Dacia talked about with your principles, your beliefs, your values, identifying mentors, opportunities for personal development, all of that is really a part of what you'll experience in LeadVR. So Dacia, thank you so much for giving us that overview and your perspective. It really makes a difference to hear from someone in your position and your capacity. We really appreciate you, and your contact information is here, the email address. If want people to know if they want to reach out and share or speak with you, that they certainly have that opportunity to connect. So going forward, there will be a link that I will send to you, or that may not come from me. I'm not sure if it'll come from me or from the IT person, for a 360 assessment. The assessment is not something you complete. It is something that you will send to 3 people in your organization, people you supervise and someone who supervises you. You'll ask them to complete an assessment of you. We will get the results and we will send you the results back to you. So again, you'll get a link to your own personal 360 assessment. We'll send you the link. You'll send that link to 3 people at least. If you want to do more, that's fine, but you're going to be responsible for compiling the results, and they'll complete the assessment of you. We ask you to choose people that you supervise and someone, at least one person who supervises you, frontline staff, a supervisor, upper management. You could get someone who is at the same level as you. So your deadline for that, I didn't put that on the screen, but I'll send that in a follow-up email. Your deadline for getting that done will be February 8th. You'll ask them to complete the assessment by February 8th. We'll ask you to compile your results by a week after that, which is February 15th. And then that'll give a week for your faculty to review your reflections and provide feedback. You'll also have an opportunity to check in with your accountability partner. The other reflection on the DISC, we covered a lot of that in our breakout session today. So we want you to focus primarily on getting that 360 assessment completed, have your colleagues complete that, and compile, read through the compiled results and do your reflections and meet up with your accountability partner. I have a list of things that I need to do. Send out the personal leadership development plan to you all. A few of you have said that you need a copy of your DISC assessment, that you were unable to download that. I know Dan and I think Rachel, maybe Amy, I had on my list, and to send you a Blackboard 101 primer, so to help you navigate Blackboard. Any other questions or concerns? Rachel, you said you have yours. Okay. Anything that I need to do? Okay, thank you, Amy. So the primer, the personal leadership development plan, and get you the link for the 360-degree assessment. Was there anything else, questions that you have? February 8th, February 15th. Before we go, can you turn your cameras on so that we can do some we can do some photos so we can see everyone. I know that we want to do as much connection as we possibly can in our groups, and a lot of that's going to happen in our breakout sessions, right? So when you go to the breakout session, we ask that, oh, thank you. I'll stop sharing. When we go to the breakout session, we'll ask that you turn your camera on so that you will get to know each other a little bit better. So cameras are on. Thank you. Be sure and smile because I think Veronica is taking pictures of everyone on each screen. It's so lovely to see your lovely faces and to see everyone. Helps us connect a little bit more, right? And please feel free to leave your cameras on. It is a great looking group. During the session, leave your cameras on if you would like. No worries.
I'm sorry, I'm trying. Something's wrong with my camera. It's not deliberate, I swear.
It's okay. Thank you for letting us know. All right, we're good on the photos. I think Veronica was doing that. You're good? Okay, thank you. Anything else before we go? We'll meet again in a month on the 4th Tuesday, which is February 2nd. Michael Quinn from RSA, Sharina Sewell from Virginia, and John Conley from CSAVR will be presenting on major issues, trends, opportunities in VR. John does, again, apologize. He, for whatever reason, having some technical issues today with audio. So we'll get that sorted out. We'll also get the whole going to the break sorted out. You may have to just self-select your break, your cohort next time, rather than us trying to pre-assign. That was too much. We'll send links for, or you have the email addresses for all faculty and all contacts. So you have that in that Excel spreadsheet that I sent out this morning. But if you need anything, please feel free to email me or any other faculty for follow-up. I'm so excited to be with you on this leadership journey. Thank you again, Dasia, for sharing with us today. You were awesome as always. And we're looking forward to seeing you all next month. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.